process.
Apparently it's a big
It's a fair process. Where criteria is established, and that can be changed. But we need to give a template.
Where's Western State?
So that
Gunnison.
So they're prepared.
Gunnison.
Adjudicate fairly.
They had
Oh, yeah, you have to be fair.
talked about how many stores they have. They have quite a few.
Okay, welcome. Call to order. Cindy?
Thank you. Mayor Levy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harvey,
Here.
Gary Brevetto,
Here.
Bob Carlson.
Here.
Ken Matthews.
Here.
Noel Sawyer,
Here.
John Schaefer. Thank you.
Great. If you'll like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start this meeting with something that I'm very, very fond of, as most of you know. Our children, our school children, and our school system. And you will be hearing from me on a number of occasions in this regard. It's one of my passions, and I hope that I can help in any way I can. So today I want to introduce, I guess I should start with our superintendent, Jed Bowman. His son is with us today. So Brendan, welcome. And also Mike DeWall, who is our head of athletics, athletic director. So we have a presentation, and Mike, if you want to come forward. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate the chance to come out and just talk about Woodland Park Athletics, Woodland Park High School and school district in general, and then the great partnership we have between the city and what we try to do at the high school. So very happy to be here. This is my third year now as athletic director at the high school, and each year we do this. We try to do things better. That's kind of my theme for this year is let's do it better. And that for Woodland Park Athletics, just being mediocre, being the same as we always were, just coming away with a winning record is not good enough. Not good enough in my book. Woodland Park is very, very capable of producing some high-quality athletics. Woodland Park High School is capable of producing a high-quality product across the board, and we know that athletics are very, very visible in this community. And so the task for my coaches is let's do it better. If you went 500, let's win 2/3 of our games this year. If you made the playoffs, let's advance deep into the playoffs this year. So that's what we're trying to do every year is let's do it better. I've been fortunate enough in my third year now. I've got to hire 6 new coaches since I've been here. And I think that's really awesome because it's an opportunity to get people in our building with a similar vision, a similar drive, a similar way of communicating with kids and parents, and that focus on trying to do better at Woodland Park. And we can do better. Good enough isn't. You've heard that before. And we're not going to settle for that. So we've got some high aspirations. Of course, we were fortunate enough to hire one of your own as our new soccer coach, men's soccer coach this year with Coach Sawyer. So he's got 3 games under his belt now, 2 games, 2 official games under his belt. And I've seen some great things about the way he's doing things and the way the program's turned around already. So we're looking for great things, and that's just one indication of how we can do it better. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do everything better. So one of the things I've been very pleased with, and now that I've learned how to manage that better and just ask the right questions, is the partnership that we have with the city regarding facilities and the use of Meadowwood Sports Complex, Panther Field, the turf field over there have been some great things we've been able to do with that. Just from simple things like helping out when we have bad weather and there's a bunch of mud puddles on my practice fields, being able to give Judy a call over at the city and say, hey, can we get on the turf and practice? And And, that makes a huge difference. It's one day, it's one afternoon, but in the grand scheme of things, we don't have to settle for practicing in a gym that's, a third of the size of what your field would be. And the city's been able to, help us do that. And I continue to look for some great things as we partner and move forward with that as well. So, and that's one of my learning curves, is knowing how to ask those questions and who to ask, and nobody doesn't want to help you. And so that's the thing, is ask the right people, you get your needs met, and that's been an awesome partnership with the city. So as things grow and change, we're putting that turf playground in at Gateway, and that's going to be a great opportunity for us from an athletic standpoint as well, not just for the kiddos in the elementary school, but also I see some great things that the city can jump on board with that GOCO grant, and we're gonna keep asking and looking for more sources to continue to make improvements in our athletic facilities as well, and we need that partnership with the city. So I've been very, very pleased in just over 2 years now of what we can do with that partnership. So, and my appreciation then to city council members, I brought some things to show you guys, give you guys an opportunity to show your support for the Panthers. So let me kind of show you what I brought. You want to help me? All right. So, rolling out, the school district logo with the peak. Woodland Park School District, Elevate Your Education. We got these great hats. We rolled these out at the Chamber Golf Tournament. We gave those away at our hole that we did. So we've got some hats here. So I'm going to have Brandon help you out with those. Grab those. And then just these guys here. She'll help you know. Start with Mr. Levy and then work your way down. And we've got plenty. So if any of you guys that are not on the council,
thanks so much.
let me know. We'll hook you guys up.
Thanks, man.
Also new, just recently, car window stickers. Again, with our district logo and our slogan, Elevate Your Education. Kind of a big deal to us. And really, it's part of my theme, is that we can do things better. Let's elevate our programs. We're going to be better this year in everything that we do. So elevate our education, these bumper stickers. Thank you, sir. I mean, this is the year for the swag, I tell you. Okay,
right.
This one's pretty darn cool. District logo, water bottle. Again, with our Elevate Your Education slogan, school district website on that. Some cool water bottles. This is from our booster club, the Panther Booster Club, in a partnership with, basically they receive these with advertisement. They're brand new this year for the 2014 version, the Black Panther seat cushion.
Thank you.
And then here's probably the best one of all. And I pulled out the special Colorado Springs Metro League passes. And why these are special is because this will entitle you and another adult to get into any contest, home and away. And so that's what I would like to see, a lot more of our city council members watching us down in the Springs, competing in the Colorado Springs Metro League, knowing that our goal is to finish in the top half, be a playoff team, make it deep into the playoffs. So I've got league passes for each of the council members as well. So thank you guys for your time, allowing me to come and speak. I guess I should pause for questions.
Yes.
Okay.
You should.
Go for it.
Should.
Hey, Mike, can you tell the audience and the people at home how to check the sports schedules?
Very good. Thank you.
Yes.
Um,
And that-
very, very simple.
That-
The Colorado Springs Metro League has a great, easy to negotiate web page. So it's at CSM League, all one word, csmleague.org. You click on that page and you'll see all of the schools in the league. Woodland Park is alphabetized, so we're at the bottom there, just before Vista Ridge, after Vista Ridge. Click on that, and it's a very easy to navigate calendar. It'll show you, this week's events. So you can just scroll through and go what's going on this week, or you can specifically search for a team. So if you want to see men's soccer, follow Coach Sawyer. Click on that, and it'll print off his entire season schedule. So a very easy to navigate tool, Colorado Springs Metro League, csml.org. Also, there is a link on the school district's webpage specific to athletics. So if you go on WPSD, K12.org, and go to the high school athletics page, you'll be able to access that calendar as well.
And
Great.
football has a game tomorrow night?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Noel. We do have our home opener tomorrow night. Pretty darn excited about that. We've renewed our competitive partnership with Manitou Springs. We were able to negotiate contests, home and away contests with Manitou Springs over the next 2 years in all but 2 of our sports, at least that they field in common. And we're working on that, so getting every one of them. In fact, I'd like to propose with their athletic director some sort of a Ute Pass Cup where we will exchange a trophy, and figure out some sort of point system between all the teams that we have in common and play each other in. So I think that'd be pretty cool to renew that. But like I said, this is the first time we've been, we've played them in sports, but not as much as we're going to do this next 2-year cycle. So I'm pretty darn excited about that. So we open with Manitou Springs in football. We've already got one up on Manitou from Wednesday. We had a JV golf match here at Shining Mountain, and our JV boys outscored Manitou Springs JV boys golfers by over 30 points. So, that's a predictor of things to come. I'm pretty excited about that for sure. But, you got to have those rivalries, and I think that's a natural one. And so that's kind of been one of the things I've really been focusing on since I've been here is getting that rivalry going again and getting them on our calendar, getting them on our schedules.
Obvious question, Noel. How's your new boss?
I like them. I like both bosses.
Well, I can tell you for myself, and these guys will agree, obviously I'm a big supporter, but I've challenged these guys, and they've challenged me. They don't object to it. They encourage it. They know there are things that we need to get better in, as Mike just said. And I would encourage everybody to open up that communication because these guys are really working hard. There are great things that are happening in our school system, and I think we all need to be a part of that and realize what's going on there. That said, I'd like to have Jed and Brendan come up and Mike and give you all a mayor's pin while you're here since you gave us all this stuff. I only have one thing for you, but we really appreciate all you guys do, so thanks very much. There you go, pal. Thanks.
Hey, Mayor, can we get a picture here?
Oh, sure. I'm sure if you want to take a picture with me again.
Blatant.
Right up here, I guess they're going to tell you where to take a picture. Come on, pal. Shirts can't go down and stuff there. There you go.
Lean as far back as you can. It flashed.
You got it.
Technical difficulties.
Thanks.
Front page, Norma. Front page.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, we'll move on to additions, deletions, and corrections. Cindy?
Thank you. At your place tonight is a revised agenda dated today's date. There's one thing that we added to the agenda. You also have a staff report on a transfer of ownership for the existing liquor license at the Ute Inn. That is agenda item 9D, properly advertised, just left off this agenda. And then on the consent calendar, the minutes for, I believe it's the August 21st agenda, corrected the spelling of our finance director and treasurer's first name. Those are the only additions, deletions, or corrections that we have.
Great, thank you. Then let's move on to the consent calendar, Cindy.
Thanks. 2 sets of minutes, one for the August 21st regular meeting. And Bob, catching up on the special meetings, we have the June 3rd special meeting, and I am real close to finishing the July 30th. So you'll see that at your next meeting. And then a reminder that at our last meeting on August 21st, the city manager reminded you that he had signed the agreement with Barker Rinker Seacat for the Woodland Aquatic Project contract in the amount of $33,300. This appears tonight as ratification of that contract. What questions may we answer?
Move to accept the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. Brevetto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to unfinished business, which won't take us long because there is none. And then ordinance on initial posting, we have none there. So we'll move to public hearings, and I need to make this announcement before we start. Council members use electronic devices to access the materials relevant to the public hearing before us. Be assured that it is the common practice of this city council that these devices are not being used for texting, emailing, or other communications during these public hearings. Okay. Item number A, to approve ordinance number 1220 for a conditional use permit. And we have Lisa with us.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I have a conditional use permit request for Lachina Automotive, and we do have here with us this evening Tom Lachina, the owner of Lachina Automotive, as well as architect Keith Meyer, and they'll have a moment to speak with you after my presentation and any questions that you might have of me. The request is to add an additional 800 square foot building with one bay to the existing automotive and repair service that's located at 115 South Park Street. And this is located within the Central Business District. And if you look at our table of permitted uses in section 18.09, that does indicate to you that this particular request in the Central Business District for an automobile repair service is conditional. So that's why we're here this evening. We do look at the case at hand to the following sections. 18.23 is our Central Business District standards. Also 18.57, which is our conditional use permit criteria. And then we also look at it in accordance with performance standards in section 18.33. This next slide here is a view of our zoning map, and it also shows you the adjacent properties as far as businesses go. You'll notice that to the north, the west, and the east, it's predominantly Central Business District zoned. And to the south, we do have some urban residential zone. And the businesses, of course, the Hungry Bear to the north, and then obviously to the east we have the A to C storage units, and then to the west we have the newly established Woodland Hardware store. There are also residents to the south. This is a bird's eye view of this site. His lot does actually have two structures. To the south, you'll see there is a residential single-family home, and that home was built in 1942. And then to the north is his automobile repair service structure. And then you'll also notice to the west, we have the street right-of-way of Park Street, and then to the south, we have Grace Avenue. This is the site plan, and you'll notice on the site plan that the same existing structures are shown. We have the residential unit to the south there, and then we have the business that is used for his automobile repair service. This portion of the automobile repair service is original in 1988, and then there was a conditional use permit process in 2001 that established this other eastern portion of that particular shop. One of the other things that I want to make note of when looking at the site plan is that there are, as part of this, several drainage improvements that are being required. And one of those is the grading. There'll be a regrading of, the parking lot here, ingress-egress off of Park Street, that will provide positive flow into the drainage ditch here. And there are also cross pans across the ingress-egress here off of Park Street, as well as across the Grace Avenue newly established off-street parking as part of meeting the parking requirements. We also have, I'm going to go into the parking requirements a little bit more, and this is Section 8 requirements bound by Section 18.39. And there are required parking in accordance to that parking ordinance. Under auto repair service, there must be 3 parking spaces for every repair bay. And I've laid out the numbers here for you. We have 3 existing bays, which require 3 times 3, which require 9 bays. We also have 1 proposed bay with 3 spaces, and then we have the residential, which is requiring 2 spaces as well. So 14 total is what's required by that section, and they have met that. They are utilizing the on-street parking off of Park Street. There's 2 spaces there. And then there's storefront spaces that are going to be provided, 5 of them, and included in that is 1 handicap accessible, van accessible parking space as required. And there is also that newly established 4 parking spaces off of Grace Avenue, as well as the 3 spaces that they're utilizing already off of the driveway, which comes in off of Grace Avenue. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on the uses of those parking spaces so that you can get a better understanding of how that parking works in conjunction with the business and that residential house. Anything that is in yellow, and it's highlighted pretty lightly in yellow, are these spaces here. And these are going to, or these spaces here, and these are going to be customer parking. Anything that's hot pink is going to be a drop-off pickup. So it's really, if they've scheduled a visit and they need to drop it off, it'll sit there until it's ready to be worked on. Or if it's done and it needs to be picked up, it'll be sitting there. If it's outlined in red, that means that it's not going to be out. They're going to have no cars parked there overnight. So you'll notice those 2 on-street parking spaces there will not be overnight parking on those, as well as a couple through the parking in here. The blue represents parking that's established just for their residential structure here, and he does rent that residential single-family home. And the blue outline is only if, for some reason, they were to leave one out overnight that a customer didn't pick up, just didn't make it in. That would be very rare, but that could happen. So that's the blue dashes. And then if it's outlined in full bold blue, that means that that's where any overnight cars would be left. So you can tell that that's the area that will predominantly take place is to the east behind the residential structure as well as the service bay. This is a picture of the storefront to the service, auto repair service, just looking to the east from Park Street on the storefront. This is a picture looking north off of Grace Avenue, and what this does is show you, kind of in conjunction with those site plans and aerial views, this is the single-family home, and this is the rooftop of the storefront, the existing storefront. Now, when staff looks at a conditional use permit, it reviews this to 11 criteria. I'm going to briefly go over each criteria and tell you what our analysis is to each one. The first one here is that the proposed use must demonstrate a direct need to be located at this proposed location. And this does fit the use and intent of the Central Business District, which is to allow for commercial in the downtown area that can be accessed either through motor public or pedestrian public. And this has been an existing use for the last 20 years with the existing portion of his automobile repair service, and it's been commercially zoned for over 40 years. And this use is actually conditional in almost all of our commercial zones. So whether it would be a central business district zone, or if it's a commercial, a community commercial zone, it would be conditional. The only zone that it's not conditional in is neighborhood commercial, and that's simply because that area is meant to be a buffer between residential areas and other commercial activity. And all of the impacts have been assessed and mitigated, and there has been provided for actions, mitigation actions for drainage, parking, and traffic. Criteria number 2 is that it shall not endanger the public health and welfare. And this new addition will meet International Building Code as well as fire regulations as part of its zoning and building permit review process that it'll still need to undergo for the commercial addition. Criteria number 3 is that it shall not injure or any vicinity properties as far as their values. And the properties to the north, east, and west, again, are zoned central business district. The residential lots within the close proximity, they've been in that proximity for the last 20 years near this use that's existing, just expanding the use again here. And they also did take the extra step of acquiring an assessment from a broker from Ascent Commercial Group, Mark Weaver, and I'll quote what he said with regard to its effects on vicinity property values, and that is, since Lachina already is a commercial use and the neighborhood is already a commercial corridor, I find that such factors are currently in place regarding the property values, and new activity related to these factors, especially proposed construction to upgrade the existing improvements, will have little to no effect on property values in this area. And we also did undertake that public notification process where we posted a sign. We did courtesy adjacent property notice letters to all the properties within 150 feet. We did get one response from Kelly Radamel. I've included that as part of your packets. And his concerns mostly were related to the parking, particularly south of his ingress-egress on the west side of Park Street, and the potential congestion that the increased use might create. And I'll talk a little bit more about traffic here in another criteria. The criteria number 4 is that the use shall be in harmony with the area that it's located. And it does fit the central business district zone, the intent of that central business district zone. And again, it's been commercially zoned for 40 years, and nearly 20 years it's been this use. Criteria number 5 is that it shall conform to all city plans. This would include anything for growth management, transportation, utilities, capital improvements, and downtown redevelopment. The comprehensive plan map for this area does show this to be a mixed use in the future in accordance with that review during the comprehensive plan, and that would be compatible. And the development does also lend to the comprehensive plan guiding principle to sustain economic diversity and vitality. Criteria number 6 is to conform to all city regulations. This would include subdivision, utilities, buildings and construction, business regulations, and engineering specifications. City review did find the elevations, floor plans, and site plans to meet zoning and relevant city requirements, with the final agreed upon red lines incorporated into the commercial development site plan. So there were red lines that were incorporated to add some mitigation for drainage and et cetera. And the International Building Code and fire codes, again, will be met, as well as the business licensure, as has been met in the past by Mr. Lachina, as part of the zoning development permit process and building permit process. Criteria number 7 talks to that traffic. I told you I'd expand upon that a little bit more for you. The applicant did submit, as part of the conditional use permit process, a trip generation letter, and that letter stated that the average weekday increase would be 12 trips. And the new trips generated were estimated at 2 trips during the peak and AM and PM hours. And if you were to compare that to the 100 trip threshold that's required for a more advanced traffic study, that tells you how very little this additional use will change the traffic in that area in accordance with that letter and analysis. The parking requirements have been met. I went over those at the beginning of the presentation. And as Woodland Station continues and to develop over time, and we see new uses there in the future, just keep in mind also that Park Street, this will be looked at again, Park Street and the traffic, and there'll be more studies that will be provided as part of development in that area. Criteria number 8 has to do with whether or not the use meets the appropriate regard to topography, surface drainage, soil potentials, natural and man-made hazards, and any environmentally significant features. And the existing structures here, flat topography, no significant environmental impacts. There is additional impervious area, and there is resulting drainage that's going to be mitigated with improvements to include the engineer-specified grading that's going to create that positive flow into the existing drainage ditch and cross pans and driveway cuts. The final drainage improvements have been redlined into the current site plan again, and those will be incorporated into the site plan for the commercial development for zoning and building permit. Criteria number 9 asks that the use be maintained with adequate water supply, solid waste disposal, protection of air quality, and also water drainage. And this, both of these structures served with City Water and Sewer Utilities Director Kip Wiley has reviewed this site plan and has approved it at this time. And the commercial remodel, zoning, and building development permits will actually evaluate TAP based on the capacity, based on fixture unit counts that are submitted with commercial development during the ZDP, zoning development review and building review. And the drainage will be handled with appropriate regard to the grading, again, of the driveway off of Park Street, and air impacts are minimal. Criteria number 10 talks about the use being constructed and maintained to not unduly increase the public danger, fire, explosion, and other safety hazards. There are really no significant safety hazards here. The commercial addition will, again, comply with IBC and fire regulations and be evaluated during that building permit process. Lastly is that the use may be required to provide architectural design schemes and may also require amenities such as, but not limited to, fencing, landscaping, buffering areas, and other aesthetic enhancements. The proposed structure will be matching with the stucco. It will be a stucco exterior with matching asphalt shingle roof to match the main commercial structure. So, and the final lighting will be ensured that it will be full cutoff, not create any glares to the residential structures to the south. So Planning Commission did review this, and they approved unanimously. We're asking for approval of ordinance number 1220, subject to the following conditions. I'll read this verbatim so that no content is lost. Prior to issuance of a zoning development permit for the commercial development addition of the new 800-square-foot building, the applicant shall provide the following to the Woodland Park Planning Department. All related site improvements must meet current city engineering specifications and be inspected to the satisfaction of the city inspector. The final commercial development site plan submittal must incorporate all site plan review comments to the reviewer's satisfaction. Final signage must be approved and reviewed as a separate permanent sign zoning development permit by staff, and final lighting must be pre-approved by staff prior to installation and be full cutoff, meeting dark sky guidelines to reduce potential glares to the residents to the south in accordance with section 18.33.080.f. So do you have any questions for me? Yes?
Yeah, we're focused on this 800 square foot addition.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any authority to look at the existing structure that's going on to whether it meets code, so that the total complex there is brought up to current International Building Code standards.
Those have all been reviewed as part of the past CUPs, conditional use permits.
Okay, so
And-
they passed previously.
Right, they've all been reviewed in the past. So we're mostly looking at the addition here, although we are looking at site improvements too.
I'm looking at where the new structure goes, and I see 2 feet between the house and the new structure, and that was okay with planning?
Fire department did review this as well, and they would be the ones that would be concerned with any firewalls or anything.
Okay. 'Cause that's very close to it, and if there is an explosion, hopefully there's not. I mean, that is a concern with the house right there.
And again, will also be reviewed during our
Okay.
commercial development review as well. So if there are any things that need to be incorporated at that time, they will be required.
Looks great.
Anyone else? I got a question for you, Lisa. Just
Yeah.
in the future, with some development in that area, certainly at Willard Station, what's the chances for expanding on Park Street, on widening that? Is there room for that? Is that something that?
It's something that the city engineer and staff would, look at in conjunction with development, in conjunction with need based on complaints and that sort of thing, with police reporting complaints.
Your question was about lighting?
No, about the
Parking,
widening
widening.
of Park Street. Is there room for that?
Not a lot. I mean, the right-of-way is pretty limited. The drainage is there. I mean, eventually, it'd be nice to enclose the ditch there and gain some more room that way. So there's some opportunity, but it's limited, and it's not inexpensive.
But for this specific CUP, the site improvements actually are a benefit as compared to leaving it at the status quo, correct?
Yeah, as far as the drainage improvements, the addition of the concrete cross pans and things like that, absolutely.
That, I think one of your first pictures showed that looked like a drainage problem because there was a lot of silt.
Right.
Is all that part of what's being taken
Looking
care
north
of?
from Grace Avenue, right. That was the second picture that I showed here, I think.
Yeah, right
Is that the
there.
one that you're talking about?
So that'd be part of the improvements.
There's curbs and gutters that are going to be put in to that area. It's actually just to the east of that area. So, but yes.
Okay.
And a lot of that is the parking is going to be different. You're seeing some tracks that are coming in off of that area, and there's going to be more parking that's going to be added too that'll alleviate some of that as well.
Thank you.
Were the Red Armors concerns mitigated?
What I did with that is I forwarded that email with those concerns to City Engineer Bill Osbach, as well as Police Chief Robert Larson and David Buttery, and asked them to just take a look at that. The feedback that we got was there was one other additional complaint, I think, for the parking issue, but there haven't been an excessive number of complaints. I even rechecked today to see kind of where we were at with that, and so we're watching it and evaluating it based on what people are giving us for feedback on that parking.
I just noticed that that's a rental property,
It is.
and is the parking considered with renters?
There's 2 parking spaces, the 2 blue parking spaces.
Okay, I think I saw that off to
yeah.
the side right in the beginning. I noticed when you did the aerial shot, that must have been a very old aerial shot.
It comes
Okay.
off of Google.
That's what I thought. Google.
Yeah.
All right. Other than that, it looks great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Shall we have Mr. Lacina come up?
Absolutely.
Thanks, please. Hello, my name's Tom Lagina. You know me, Neil. I'm probably going to might put a sock in the whole thing here, but what I have to say about my opinion on the whole thing. 800 square foot is basically a small building. It's one bay. Okay. It's a win-win situation here because right now that lot looks like a piece of you know what. It's ugly. It's an eyesore, right?
We see it.
So I'm willing to put all my money into fixing this place up, all this money for 800 square foot. I got the engineer wants me to put in a what do you call that? A cross pan on the city street. Nobody else has a cross pan on the freaking city street, but I have to have one. But that's fine. I'll go ahead with that. The guy across the street builds a 30,000 square foot hardware store that has no buffering at all for the residential neighborhood. 6:30 in the morning, you're waking up by compressors and trucks backing up. It was engineered, Park Street should have shut, I even proposed this when the whole thing took place, that not to put an entrance on another entrance, commercial entrance on Park Street. It's directly across from mine. That was a commercial building since 1982. So they decided to put a commercial tractor-trailer entrance in a very narrow road without even expanding the width of the road. Now, this was real intelligent. Okay, now the owner, Kelly Romero, or whatever the hell his name is concerned about the parking all of a sudden. Okay, now this is really good. Okay, so now, not only did they take the parking away from me, which I had about 30 spaces, he wants to take the street parking away now, too. I mean, I doubt very much if that would happen, but why wasn't this thought out when they built that 30,000 square foot building, that there's going to be tractor trailers coming in from Park Street? I got days that I can't even access the front of my building because there's a tractor trailer sitting in front of my building for 15 minutes waiting for them to open the gate. Now, how does that hamper my building? I mean, my business is it's just crazy. So I proposed for the city or the TIF fund, this DDA, to pay to fill in the ditch, and then I don't know if you guys know how the TIF fund works, but of course that wasn't. I can't do that. I can't access. I can't get the TIF fund. I guess that's for special people. But if they filled in the ditch, we could have had parking all the way up and down Park Street, pulled right straight into my property. That would have solved the whole problem, basically right there. But that was shot down. So now I have to produce the parking, which Lisa showed you was, up to code, enough parking spaces and all that. But I feel like, why should I have to repair the city streets? Why should I have to put a cross pan? That drainage has been like that for 25 years that I've known of it. And all of a sudden I have to fix the city streets. I sit there probably 4 times a week, not exaggerating, pulling people out of those ditches. Literally. Old people back into them. It's crazy. It just, the ditch needs to be filled in. There should not be an open ditch in front of a commercial building. Shouldn't be any open ditches, period, but especially in front of a commercial building. But you cannot take that street parking away. You can't do it. I mean, the majority of the downtown district does not have parking. They're all street parking. But, so what do we do? How do we solve this problem? You have to, the first thing, it was a big mistake by not widening the road to begin with. So how do we fix it now? He's got other entrances to get his tractor trailers in. He doesn't have to come through Park Street. So maybe that would be one issue. But, I have no tractor trailers come into my place. If I do, I have another access through the alley.
Sir, Mr. Lucina, can you keep your comments based on the CUP itself and whether or not you agree with the staff's recommendation that we approve the CUP with the 3 conditions?
It's basically up to you, ma'am. It's your vote. I'm just stating what I feel. I mean, I have never had a chance to speak, so this is what I feel. Now, everything's up to code. Everything she's presented to you, it's a no-brainer. It's 800 square foot. It's a win-win situation. You got an eyesore right here in the city. The asphalt's eroding away. I have drainage issues from my property, not the street, from my property, which I will fix. And, you know, and it's not gonna be a stucco building, it'll be to match the old building. At least kind of got that part.
Tom, let me just interject for a second. What Mayor Pro Tem Harvey is alluding to is simple. Clearly, you have some issues with the process. We get that. We get that. And we can discuss that at a later date. Let's try to get what you want, your 800 square foot building.
Basically, I guess you need to ask me the questions then. What do you need me to, what?
Yeah, your concern is having to put your money into fixing what you consider to be street property. That
Right.
drainage ditch there is probably
Cross
within the
pan, yeah.
street right away.
Right.
And for you to have to correct that problem seems to be a problem for you. Whereas you're perfectly willing, when you grade your land, to have it drain out, that it would drain into that ditch.
That's correct.
But the ditch, you shouldn't have to pay to correct the ditch.
That's correct.
Okay?
That's-
So that seems reasonable to me, that if that is city property, the city ought to be taking care of it. So, you know,
He's not addressing the ditch. The issue here is the driveways and the parking access that accesses off a city street. So he's accessing his property off a city street.
Right.
By doing that, now the curb and gutter or the drainage still has to go through there. So there's a low spot, and it needs to be a concrete cross pan in those low spots to collect the drainage and then direct it to the ditch. We're not asking for improvements to the ditch. It's the cross pans for the driveways and parking areas.
So that ditch will remain just the way it is right there then?
Yes, sir.
Well, maybe the concern is are we thinking about in the future making changes to that so there's not that unsafe ditch? We have the same problem on Lorraine.
It's not the issue.
It's not a ditch there?
There's a ditch there, but that's not the issue before you here.
Well, no, I understand that, but he's concerned that if he puts all this money into the property, that ditch is still there. And he's saying that people are backing into it and he's got to pull them out. Are we considering in the future fixing that, making it wider, putting it underground?
I think that's a good discussion, but
That's-
for this particular
Right, I
action,
understand that.
This
So
is all
I'm
about
just-
the CUP.
I'm clarifying for everyone here what his concern is. He's
Yeah.
going to throw all this money into it.
But the
Is that correct?
action before us right now is a consideration of the CUP
Yeah, I
with
understand.
the
Okay.
three
I know.
conditions.
We kind of went off on a tangent.
Yeah, and I think it's a great discussion, but this is not the place.
Okay, fair
Nor the
enough.
time.
I agree.
And if we're going to consider this, then we
Let's
need
do
to
it.
ask him questions specifically about the CUP.
I have no questions for you, Tom.
This is Keith Myers, he's my architect.
I do want to point out one.
Sir, if you could state your name and your address.
Keith Meyer, 70 Mornings on Drive.
Thanks.
A lot of this erosion you see here is coming off of Park Street and coming across the drive here. And coming down this way, and our site plan provides a curb and gutter on this side of our new parking, which should alleviate a lot of that, but a lot of that water is actually coming off of Park Street, coming down the street, and it just happens to not be hitting the ditch, it's going across the existing condition and
Understand.
eroding all that. So there is off-site impact to Tom on the drainage off of Park Street in the existing condition. And his concern is he's paying for the entire cross pan, and a lot of the water that's going to be collected by the cross pan is actually coming off Park Street. And some of it is property too.
Again, I think it's a great discussion to have at a later
Do you have
date.
any questions regarding the CU?
That's what we're gonna find out. Do we have any further questions?
That's great.
Okay, thank you very much. There's no other questions, we'll open to public comment. Sir, if you'll come up, give us your name and address.
Mayor Levy and other council. My name is John Hanlon. I live at 131 Grace Avenue. And if you're not familiar with that, it is directly across the street from the applicant's main service entrance drive to the service bays. And having lived there for 12 years, I have not had the experience of any parking problems whatsoever at all that relate to the specific applicant's facilities. We all know that during citywide activities and everything like that, there's some bleed over parking on the Park Avenue, or onto Grace Avenue, but that's acceptable. That's community-wide things that you recognize and that you help out with. So I have experienced development both at Fairview and Grace, when they took the old church out and put the dinosaur museum in, the Beer Works facilities, the now finished and opened hardware store that's on the west side of where I live. But what I'd like to tell you is my wife and I sit out in our front yard with an umbrella, and because it's really nice out there. And one particular day, there's a car that came up on our side of the street and kind of parked in front of our house. And we kind of go, well, what's going on? There's nothing going on in the city, so we normally don't see any bleed over parking traffic at all. And to our surprise, the individual got out of his car, came all the way to the driveway and to the table, and asked us if it would be okay if he parked there. Well, several months later, I found out that that individual was an employee of the applicant tonight. And that, to me, I think, speaks volumes of the character of the applicant tonight, and his concern about what his facility does and how it interacts with the other residential areas around his business. I just wanted to convey to you that his business hasn't caused us any complaints or any problems whatsoever at all. So I thank you for your time. I also thank planning staff and planning commission and council for their due diligence in sending out their notices. And I thank you for your hard work and consideration. You guys, there's a lot of projects going on in the city, and I think you're doing a fine job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Any other public comment? Okay, if not, we'll close the public comment and we'll move on. Council, you have questions? Concerns, Bob?
Well, nothing with the action here in place, but we are doing drainage studies as a separate issue, and I would just invite our staff to take a special attention to this and see if we can get rid of that very dangerous drainage ditch. But that, again, is a separate future action. Okay?
Yeah, and as Woodland Station is evolving and hopefully improving, that discussion will be ongoing.
Well, I would just support that also, because there's several places in town where those open ditches, especially in the wintertime, are very dangerous. So as is appropriate, it'd be nice if we could get some of those filled in the case of Park Street. I think improving the parking also. So I would just support that. That's all I'm going to say.
I'll third
Agree,
that.
Bill, what do you?
Well, you certainly will have your chance once the drainage study's done and the bills are before you to fund all the improvements. So
We look forward.
let's put your money there and we'll get it done. So,
There you
John,
go.
where your mouth is. Got it.
What else? Do we have a motion?
I move approval of ordinance 1220 as presented.
With conditions?
Yes.
Excuse 1 second.
With the condition. And then Mayor Levy, would, if I could then ask Councilman Matthews if he would also then incorporate the findings in the staff report into his motion?
Certainly.
Consider that done.
Thank
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, call for vote.
Thank you. Carlson?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Ravetto?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Tom. We'll look forward to these discussions, and we'd love to have you as part of those, because you have obviously been a big part of this process, and you know where some of the pitfalls might be. So keep an open mind. One other thing with Kelly, here's my suggestion. Take it for what it's worth. I would recommend, you're going to enlarge, you're going to be bigger and stronger. He's going to be there for a while. I would recommend trying to find a way to be great neighbors and try to help each other. And I think that would benefit both of you. Sometimes it's not an easy thing to do, but long run, I think it would be beneficial for both of you. Take that for what it's worth. Thank you very much.
All right, Neil, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on with the public hearings. Item number B and C, as it were, to consider Tamarack Tech Park filing number 5, and then to approve ordinance number 1218, and we'll ask for Sally.
Thank you, Mayor Levy, council members. We are taking both items on the agenda together that deal with the Tamarack Tech Park subdivision for filing number 5, and then the rezoning request. We do have Mr. Lawrence Sharon here this evening in the audience, who is the owner of the property and will be able to answer questions for you. You just went through quasi-judicial process, so you understand that there's about 11 steps involved. The public will have an opportunity to comment after the staff's presentation, the applicant's presentation, questions, and then the applicant will have a chance for rebuttal, as well as deliberations by the council. The subject property is about 25 acres, and this property is shown in this aerial outlined in red, and they currently have 8 lots, and those lots are shown in blue within the red boundary. This was done a few years ago, 2005. And since that time, they have not been able to sell any of these lots. And so as a result, we have been talking for the past few years about the possibility of rezoning. We were waiting for the comprehensive plan to be finished, and also for the market to shift a little bit for Woodland Park. And so the re-subdivision also will be 8 lots, but in a slightly different configuration. I neglected to say this is Highway 67. This is Tamarack Parkway, which serves the Tamarack Tech Park. The subdivision reorganization now shows the 8 lots in your packet. I know this is difficult to read from here, but I will review it in more detail with the aerial. So now the 8 lots will be at the end of the cul-de-sac. There are 2 smaller lots, 1 larger lot that will remain as heavy service commercial light industrial. And then the rezoning request is regards to lot 5, 6, 7, and 8. Here is the zoning map that shows the heavy service commercial light industrial in the red area, and the area that is proposed for rezoning is outlined in yellow. Provide you with a few photos of the tract. This is all vacant land at this point in time. the corner of Tamarack Parkway. This is a property that would be essentially downzoned from heavy service commercial, light industrial to neighborhood commercial. We did that purposely so not to allow a convenience store or a gas service station there. And so the applicant was agreeable to that. This area is encumbered with a floodplain, so it would take quite a bit of work through FEMA to be able to build within that floodplain or modify the floodplain. The upper right photo is at the end of the cul-de-sac. All the other lots will be accessed off of this cul-de-sac. And to show how the neighborhood has changed over time, there is now a U.S. Post Office in this area that is zoned public, semi-public. There's a small office building, Rampart Surveys office, a very minimal impact use. Then there's the Police Operations Center, also zoned public, semi-public in this neighborhood. The Colorado Springs Christian School, which services elementary school children. And the new, this is hard to see, this is the Woodland Park Fitness Center. So these uses are fairly public, user-friendly type uses. They are not in light industrial or heavy service commercial type uses. So the neighborhood has changed and has been leaning toward more of a residential type area. Up in the right-hand corner is the Tamarack Business Center that was built in the 90s and has had multiple mixed type uses in it. Most recently, the Teller County offices have just moved to this building. So the rezoning exhibit, again, here's Tamarack Parkway, the Colorado Springs Christian School. These lots adjacent to the Christian school, the applicant would like to remain as heavy service commercial, light industrial, so maybe a small manufacturing facility similar to O'Keefe Ceramics or something of that nature, or a small contractor who could have an office with their supplies outside, heavily screened. That is required in the heavy service commercial light industrial. Also, the buildings are required to be 50 feet setback from any residentially zoned lots. So we felt that these lots, smaller lots remaining as light industrial, commercial, there are plenty of dimensional standards with setbacks and buffering requirements that could mix into this neighborhood fairly easily, with the rezone proposed for multifamily suburban, which is a density of 2 to 8 units per acre. Then multifamily urban would be located next to the highway on 2 tracks, and then the southeast corner changed to neighborhood commercial. So with that, I wanted to just briefly review the definitions for these various types of zoning classifications. And the lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 would remain the heavy service commercial light industrial, which was zoned this initially in 1999. So it's been a good 15 years that this property has sat vacant with this zoning. This zoning is intended for intense commercial activity. It is required to have adequate access, ingress and egress, and it shall not create negative impacts. It is to be buffered effectively from the other uses, and the height, maximum height requirements or allowance is 35 feet with a setback of 25 feet unless it abuts a residential zone. Then the building must be set back at least 50 feet. The other criteria here is that they're required to have 50 feet of frontage. There is a request to have a variance from that frontage requirement. All these lots are serviced with an ingress-egress easement. We think that that's a wise way of going because it does not increase the public infrastructure for the city to have to maintain and own. So with these lots that are not very deep, they're fairly narrow, these easements, access easements, work very well, and you have within your authority to grant a variance to this frontage requirement. With the multifamily residential suburban, which is Lot 5, remember that is the one on the northwest side which abuts the golf course property. This is a density of 2 to 8 units per acre. It must be fully serviced with municipal water and sewer, of which those utilities do abut this property. There must be areas to accommodate the traffic, pedestrians, parks, schools, commercial centers, places of employment. Their height limit in this zone classification is 30 feet with a setback of 25 feet on the front and rear, 8 on the sides, and a 40-foot frontage road right-of-way. So again, this one is requesting a variance from that right-of-way frontage. It has an easement right off the end of the cul-de-sac, Tamarack Parkway, to allow for adequate access. Multifamily urban is our highest density classification. That's for the 2 lots that also back up to Highway 67. It allows for 9 to 20 units per acre. The must be also fully serviced with water and sewer, which is available in Tamarack Parkway. Must allow for adequate traffic, pedestrian access, parks, schools, commercial centers, places of employment, and limited to a 30-foot height limit. Front and rear setbacks are 25, side is 8, and 40 foot of frontage. Lot 7 does have 40 foot of frontage, so it's not one of the variants. Gary?
Well, you're putting 20, what? It says there 20 homes. Is that 20 homes on an acre? Is that like an apartment?
Yes, these are multifamily, typically apartments or townhomes, patio homes. They're higher density. We do not have a development plan submitted for these at this point, so this is purely a request to rezone the property. The definition for neighborhood commercial, this is Lot 8 on the corner of Highway 67 and Tamarack Parkway. Neighborhood commercial is our least impact commercial zone. So this would be a small retail center that may have a beauty shop, a coffee shop, a laundromat, those types of uses. But as I mentioned, not a convenience store or a higher impact commercial use. General retail, personal service, or office establishment. They are usually located at points of an entrance to a neighborhood. There must be efficient and safe transportation and pedestrian access. And it is focused so that we would eliminate the potential for a strip mall or commercial strip. They're usually smaller properties. The height limit is 35 feet. Setbacks are 25. Front, rear, sides are 8. And it has plenty of frontage on that corner for meeting the 40-foot requirement. So earlier with Tamarack Tech Park Filing 4, there was a preliminary plat. This replat is somewhat consistent to the preliminary plat. It does eliminate these ideas of having future roads penetrate this property, that reduces the city's infrastructure, and yet these properties are easily accessed by easements, access easements. There was a plan for one detention pond to serve the drainage and detention for this area. That has been rethought so that each individual lot would provide for their detention and drainage facilities. And then eventually all share a common easement to drain into the Trout Creek or Loy Gulch facility. So when we review a replat, we look at the compliance with the code. This filing is similar to the preliminary plat that was approved in 2007. It meets the final plat code with the exception of the lot frontage, which is why we have requested that you also in your motion to approve the variance for those lot frontages on lots 2, 3, 4, and 5. The conditions have minor corrections to the plat. Overall, the plat is very well done. However, in reviewing this, the staff and the Planning Commission felt that it would behoove us to include a 20-foot 5 landscape buffer and fenced area that's along Highway 67 to lots 6 and 7. And this is consistent with just north of here, the PUD for the golf course also has a required 25-foot landscaped buffer before the building is able to be built. What this does is give a little more protection of this area. The buildings can be set right up on the 25-foot, but they cannot put parking in that area, which is usually what developers will do, is use that setback area for parking. So we felt that by providing a nice fenced and landscape buffer, when those development plans come forward, that would help mitigate the multifamily development. So here is a exhibit that shows that 25-foot buffer in green along those 2 lots that would have the highest density associated with them. And then underlined in blue are the 4 different lots that require a frontage variance. But they do have adequate easements to be able to access off of the end of the cul-de-sac. Gary?
How high is the buffer?
The buffer would be reviewed as part of the development plan, so it would depend upon whether they utilize a tree, a landscaped buffer. Fences are allowed to be built up to 6 feet tall in the city. They can go taller with special exceptions. So it depends upon how the developer proposes to mitigate that buffer area.
And so that could be pretty highly dense and a lot of traffic coming out of that area. But the traffic studies and everything would be based on whatever development plan comes in the future then.
That's correct.
It's not part of this section. Okay.
That's correct. Yes.
And I'd like to add to that. Now we're going to have residential, if it does work out that way, we'll have residential on both sides of that highway. Maybe this is a question for Bill, for PPACG. Do we have any future plans to widen that or slow down traffic there? Because it's 50 going through there. That's pretty fast. Do we have any plans? Is there any thought of it? Have we considered it?
Well,
I mean, that's residential now on
not
both
based
sides.
on this zoning action.
Right.
I mean, there is a needs assessment, a corridor assessment that was done for 67. Are there plans to widen? Nothing immediate, nothing in the near future. We are talking right now in the 2040 plan, there's a project in there for Highway 67 improvements to address drainage and some minor improvements out there. That's based on the travel demand models that exist today and on the projections of what we think for 2040.
Is there a law saying that if you have residential on both sides, you have to have a certain speed limit?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, the speeds on state highways are usually determined by speed studies, as we know.
So I guess we got to spend more money for that, huh?
So, but it's based on the traffic density and the speed and the geometry and all the things. It's very complex because there's residential on either side does not dictate what the speed limit is going to be.
And we can talk more fully about
Right. I just
the-
wanted to throw that out there just for the food for thought there, because that is going to be a concern if this does work out and this area grows.
Well, I can tell you that as the 2040 plans moving forward, and we are working closely with CDOT on some improvements out there to address some of the issues that exist there today. If you were out there in the last 2 days, you know they've been doing some safety improvements out there with some of the shoulder issues that have been going on 67 out there.
Yep. Thank you.
Now I'd like to move into covering the rezoning findings. And our code does not have specific criteria, so we ask questions about how it relates to our comprehensive plan, how there potentially could be a need for additional land zoned in this classification. And so I'll go through these 6 or so questions. First, our comprehensive plan map does show this area as hot pink, which is mixed use. And in 2010, because we were having discussions with the applicant and we knew that there was not a market for light industrial property and had sat on the market for many years, that it seemed to make sense that with the school, the post office, the fitness club, that this could potentially become a both commercial and residential area. So it was a deliberate decision to identify this area as mixed use on the comprehensive plan map. Within the comprehensive plan goals and objectives, the housing chapter does support a wide spectrum of housing choices within our community. It also has a specific land use and growth action that talks specifically about helping the city's housing inventory to become more diverse and less reliant on single family. And I'm going to give you some statistics later on in the presentation. Again, in the economic development criteria, it talks about an objective that supports a more diverse housing options within our city. The majority of our, 90% in fact, of our housing units right now are single family. We have only 10% of our housing units that are located in a multifamily zone at this time. So right now, are additional multifamily urban zoned properties needed in Woodland Park from both a land area and a demand perspective? Currently, city does have 55 acres of undeveloped multifamily area. That does include the 9 acres of Trail Ridge, since it's not complete. It will generate potentially about 450 units on that property. The largest site is on the west side of town. It's almost 14 acres, but it's very steep. So it probably won't fully develop to the density that it's identified for. Woodland Park is approximately 57% built out with a population of 7,200 at this time. That incorporates about 3,200 units. We have a planned population of 12,600, and that's based upon our water resources and what we can support. 450 units of additional property if those multifamily tracts right now were built out, that could add another 1,100 folks to our community at 2.47 persons per household. The state average in communities is that you typically have multifamily or apartment rental type housing. About 30% of your housing stock is rental. Ours is only 10% at this point in time, with approximately 300 units. Now, Trail Ridge will add to that. And in fact, the 750 more units will bring us to about 14% of our housing stock. Quick question, Gary?
Yeah, does that bring the total population up to 13,000 something? And can the water tap support that? Because you just indicated that 12,000 is based on the water tap, available to 12,000 people. Can we accommodate 13,000?
No, that additional 1,100 is factored into the 12,000. So in 2011, our housing priority needs update concluded that a variety of rental products is needed in our community, and we have seen those recent pressures, especially with the Charis Bible College coming on board last year, or this January. Those findings are also consistent with the 2006 Teller County Housing Assessment. The maximum increase in housing units, if this 13 acres were to be rezoned, would be 301. I'm doubtful that they will go to the maximum because of the terrain, some of the terrain on especially Lot 7, but that is what could be put in there should they design it properly and meet our design standards. So the overall percentage of multifamily, if this were to be rezoned, could be approximately 20% of our housing stock. Staff believes that multifamily rezoning proposal would not saturate the Woodland Park rental market. And that's at build out. That's at the 12,600. The appropriateness of a multifamily district at this location, there is opportunity for higher density located adjacent to Highway 67. It has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage we see is that it's adjacent to the golf course, the health club, the elementary school, and the post office. So it fits nicely into this mixed-use neighborhood. The disadvantage is that it's not within walking distance of our downtown. We would like to see more multifamily units closer into town. However, it is near the Centennial Trail. It is within biking distance, and so there is a balance there. The ability to serve the density with planned water resources. The multifamily classification does not guarantee that water taps would be available for this property in the future. Evaluated within the city's water tap management plan and the multifamily bank, any proposal that would come forward, you would have the opportunity to allocate and reserve those taps for a multifamily project. So really you have, the council and the future councils have the ability to be able to manage that allocation of water. And the applicant is required to pay $200 for a reservation. They have to have a project that's ready to go. They can only hold those reservations for 2 years. So it's a fairly big commitment on their part. When our utilities director looked at this very carefully, he's, quote, said that an increase in residential densities can be supported on the short term. We have the water today. but it is difficult to be able to determine whether we will have the water in the future. However, as you know, we are trying to manage that balance between resources available and future development within our community. I put this slide in just to show you that tap sales within the city. This is 1985 to 2013 on this axis, and this right up here is 100 taps. The dark bars are the single family, so you can see we have mostly our development takes place with single family. The light blue is multifamily taps, and the purple or lavender is commercial. So this gives you an idea of not only the magnitude of the types of development that occurs in the city, but also kind of the roller coaster through the 80s and then in the 90s. This spike here was because we sold about 50 some odd taps to Woodland Village Mobile Home Park. So there were a number of single families there. And then we were able to put in the tap management plan in the 90s as a result of knowing that we needed to parse out, try to manage our growth over time. And so there was a limited number of taps that were allocated each year. And there were only a couple of years that we hit that maximum. And since then, this is 2006, things started to decline, and hopefully we'll be on the upswing here soon. Number 6 is the ability to serve with wastewater treatment capacity. And as you know, the Utilities Department is expanding, planning the expansion of the existing wastewater plant that is going to provide for service of a population of 14,000. So there is plenty of capacity that will occur with the new expansion. Lastly,
It's not that area, is that septic tanks out there? Or?
no.
Okay.
No, it will be served by the plant, which is not too far to the north from here. And so it's all gravity flow, which will also is a benefit because it doesn't place as much pressure on the force main and the pump system on the south side of town. The staff recommendation, and I should also say this is Planning Commission's recommendation, is to approve the replat and vacation with the variance for lots 2, 3, 4, and 5. And there are a few minor corrections to the plat with the first condition. The second condition is to add the 25-foot landscaping and fencing buffer along lots 6 and 7. And then the second motion, 2 motions this evening, will be for the agenda item 9C regarding the rezoning as proposed. We recommend approval for that as well. So we can turn it over to the applicant, or happy to answer questions.
Do we have any questions before we hear from the applicant?
I have a couple of questions. On the frontage variances for 2, 3, 4, and 5, lots 2, 3, 4, and 5, they would have required those variances for their current zoning designation, correct?
Those variances are a result of the replat, not the
Okay.
current zoning.
Okay. That's all I've got right now.
Anybody else, Ken? No more questions, then let's invite Lawrence to the stand. If you'll just state your name and your address, and welcome.
Good evening. My name is Lawrence Sheeran. I live at 215 Ridge Road in Colorado Springs. As Sally pointed out, we had the filing number 4 moved through the city process in 2007. Since that time, we have not been able to sell any of the lots with that zoning designation. We've been approached by a few parties that were interested in doing workforce housing projects and or senior assisted living or just senior living apartments. And in all those cases, the groups that were interested in these types of projects were interested in seeing the zoning in place. They did not want to battle through an entitlement process. So those groups have moved on. We do not have any proposed project. Should the rezoning occur, we're going to leave that up to market forces, and what we're hoping for is just have a little bit more diversity in the type of property that we would hopefully be able to sell out in the Tamarack Tech Park. And so without getting into a huge history, I'll just go to questions that you might have.
Did you have any consideration for single-family zoning?
At this location, no, we did not. That seems to be pretty well taken care of with the plans that the golf course has.
If I might add, single-family could be an option here with a conditional use if it triggers a subdivision. So if somebody wanted to come in and do patio homes or something.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Then they could have that option with a conditional use.
Go ahead, Ken.
I'm just curious of what kind of feedback, if any, you've had from the neighborhood.
Well, the feedback that we got at the Planning Commission from the neighborhood was, concerns for the traffic. A lot of different concerns that really I can't address because I'm not here to defend a development plan.
Okay.
As it's currently zoned, the reserve at Tamarack could be looking at a manufacturing facility that makes golf carts or something across the street. Whether if an apartment complex went in, if that's more or less of an impact, I couldn't say because we just don't know what's going to go in there. I think one thing that's fairly certain is that, and Bill might know a little bit more about this than I do, is that anything that goes in there that might be significant in terms of the impact or the densities would probably require some type of traffic signal on Tamarack Parkway. That's conjecture, but it's probably going to happen as this area builds out. And when that does happen, typically speed limits get reduced a little bit. I don't know if that's something that a future developer on these sites could request, or if the city requests that. But that seems to be the big concern, is the impacts to the Tamarack Tech Park.
Yeah, I live off of Research there, and as you go north to that Tamarack Parkway, that hill up there is a blind curve, and cars come zipping around there, and you're looking to try to get out of from the post office stuff, and that is really dangerous. So yes, I would hope that in the future, when the development plans come in, it would take care of those concerns.
It would make sense. I think that have speed limits reduced all the way past the golf course, but that's for CDOT. That's not for us to debate.
Exactly.
Anybody else? Lawrence, what's your vision for that whole area? You have any thoughts on that?
Well, when we originally came in to staff with our proposal, our vision was for a Tamarack Village type area, and as you know, we've got the police station, the post office, you got Rampart Surveys there, and so our vision, when we were looking at promoting it as a developer, as a master developer, was for some combination of workforce housing with some senior housing. We hadn't settled on whether or not we were going to do assisted or meal prep. We knew we weren't going to do memory care. And at that time, we also discussed some patio homes on what we're requesting for multifamily suburban. And then 2007 kind of came along and shifted a little bit of our thinking. But what really shifted our thinking at that time was the city saying, hey, we're going through this comprehensive plan process. We cannot at this time support Tamarack Village because we need to resolve the comprehensive plan. So I've worked with Sally and staff on this going on, 4 years now. It's been quite a while, and we held off until the city came up with the new comprehensive plan, and went back into discussions with staff, and here we are. At this point in time, that was our vision in the past. Our vision now is not coming at this from a master developer standpoint, but strictly from a landowner who is looking to liquidate the property.
Thank you. Anybody else? Lawrence, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That being done, we'll open up public comment. We have anybody? Mr. Smith, welcome. State your name and your address.
Yes, hi, I'm Brooks Smith, address 1324 Longs Point. I'm a resident of the Sundance at Shining Mountain filing number 1 townhomes that are directly west of this facility. This is our common area, what we call it right here. Our street is right here, and all of our units, both current and planned future, all face directly east. So we would be looking directly at this development. What we would like to suggest is that we have a 25-foot landscape and fencing buffer also provided on Lot 3 and Lot 5 that abuts our property here, similar to what you did on the highway out here. That's our one request.
Sally, can I ask why that wasn't considered, or it was? What's the thought there?
Well, we didn't consider it on the west side, or yes, western side, primarily because we were trying to buffer the new potential apartments from the highway, as well as the traveling public buffered from the apartments. This is an internal area. It will, with the development plan, be looked at carefully for a buffer with Shining Mountain. There's an easement, a 50-foot utility easement there. So I did not want to encumber the easement with additional landscaping or until we saw a development plan. So the intent of the buffer along the highway was purely both for the traveling public, which we don't have a road on that side. It's a private road that serves the Shining Mountain golf course.
But the primary reason was because of the utility easement?
Yes.
But if a future development plan comes forward, it could be considered?
Absolutely.
I recognize it could be considered, but why would you buffer one kind of residential from another residential area that are similar densities? I mean, you've got attached a condo or villas in that existing development, and on the other side, I thought it was going to be something like patio homes, something in a sense that was lower density than what was over on the highway, where you'd have the 20 units per acre type of thing.
The highway is really what we were buffering.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the utility easement.
Our development is 3.62 units per acre. So we're on the very low side of what's planned for Lot 5, which is
And what was
this
the
lot. This
yeah,
lot would be 2 to 8.
2 to 8?
We're at 3.6.
Okay, but it's still pretty low density, though, right? Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say 8 is.
Okay.
Okay?
But that is something that then when somebody comes in to develop that, then, like you said, we can consider the appropriate buffer at that time based on an actual development plan.
Well, we would certainly hope so. I guess our position is if you're going to buffer the highway, I would think buffering existing homes is just about as important as buffering the highway. So everything that is west of their property lines is all private property, every bit of it. There is no public street in there. There's no public land. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that whatever is developed on Lot 3 and Lot 5 stays on Lot 3 and Lot 5.
Brooke, do you think your group or your neighbors would be comfortable at this point waiting to see what is proposed? And because we'll have in Planning Commission and here an opportunity to control what you're talking about, whether it is, depending on how many homes it is or exactly what it is. I mean, at this stage, it's a little early to try to predict what's going to be in there. You think we're okay with waiting until that development comes out?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would probably not even be standing up here if you hadn't put the 25-foot one on the highway. But since you did that, I thought, okay, they've opened the door for us to get our opportunity in as well, and I certainly think we're as deserving of that as the highway is.
Well, I mean, the buffer is also a safety zone in case a car goes off the road or something. So, I mean, there's also a reason. I live right there, so I see your apartments every day. I think it's too premature to tell what's going to be proposed by the developer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is any other public comment? Mr. Tanis, welcome. How are you? Name and address?
Hi, I'm Dave Tanis. I live at 590 Pembroke, which is in Tamarack. I'll just say up front, I oppose the rezoning. I want to be clear that I am pro-growth. I mean, I went to elementary school here, middle school, high school. I remember when the UPass Cultural Center used to be the gym. I remember climbing a rope when it was a gym. So my brother and now my sister-in-law got married in the cultural center. Sorry, guys, I'm getting over a cold, but that wouldn't have been possible in the cultural center without growth and that development. So let me back up for a second. Mayor Levy, that's kind of fun to say. Council, Mr. Sharon, and Ms. Riley. I appreciate all the thought, especially Ms. Riley. She's really put a lot of work in this. She's been working on it for years. That's very evident. Clearly, she's very intelligent. And Mr. Sharon, I mean, you're a property owner. I understand your desire to reposition this so that you can liquidate it as a landowner. So I appreciate everybody's comments. But the main reasons why I object to this rezoning is that I do not believe that a multifamily urban development with as much as 20 units per acre would be in harmony with the surrounding area. We have the golf course community, which has really, in my opinion, magnificent homes. Tamarack, I live in Tamarack because I'm very proud of that neighborhood. I don't think that a multifamily urban with 20 dwellings per acre is in harmony with that surrounding area. Mr. Brooks Smith got up and spoke about his development. In full disclosure, my mother-in-law is a neighbor of Mr. Brooks Smith. And I see exactly where he's coming from. His units face directly to where that development would occur. So that's a concern. So number one, I do not believe it would be in harmony with the surrounding area. Number two, I am concerned that it would substantially injure the value of the vicinity of the properties in near vicinity. Specifically, I understand Mr. Sharon's desire to rezone it so that he may market the property. However, there are over 200 homeowners roughly in Tamarack. What if they wish to have liquidity in the future? How will this affect a potential buyer's desire to drive by that, with a small buffer and purchase a home there, knowing that additional traffic will be there? So that's a concern. Well, with that, I'll conclude. But again, I thank all the work that Ms. Riley's put into it, years of work, a lot of information, very coherent presentation. I appreciate it. And I also appreciate your time, Neil, and that of the council. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question, though. If it remains with the zoning that it has right now, that would certainly be a heavier use of the property. How would changing it to residential dwellings make it worse than having heavy industry there.
Yeah, and you're right, I wasn't clear, and that's a very good point. The rezoning to residential, I don't oppose that, but I do oppose the rezoning to multifamily urban. That is and guys, I get it. We have, and I agree. We have a need for, as you call it, workforce housing. I totally believe that, but I don't believe this particular lot is in harmony with the surrounding area. To go back to your question, though, the use of industrial, and Neil, you asked Mr. Sharon what his vision was of the entire area. My vision would be just a continuation of the Tamarack Business Park. And if I understand it, I could be mistaken. I thought that's how it's presently zoned. And so I would be completely in favor of like a rezoning to residential, but not multifamily urban.
Thanks.
Yeah, one of the needs on the senior end of the spectrum is going from our 3,600 square foot houses down to something when we hit our 70s will be like 1,800 square foot houses. How many would, in a sense, would fit in? What do those 1,800 square foot houses fit in per acre on this?
I would have to lay out a plan and put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah,
but,
because
it's hard
those
to
are the
tell.
folks that will probably be using the golf course and the fitness center, and it's nice to have the police station nearby. So in a sense, that user population would be more appropriate is slightly less dense, although I guess I could live in a...
Well, and that's why I asked the question, could it be used for single-family residences? And the answer is yes. But right now, it's all a pipe dream. All the applicant is asking for is to rezone from heavy service commercial to light industrial to multifamily housing for 4 of the 6 lots, 4 of the 7 lots. So it's just simply to rezone those lots for a different use than they are now. We can't dictate what will go in there.
And we don't know what the market is going for anyway. I mean, if he's trying to liquidate the property, he's trying to get as much range as possible on the types of lots there.
Exactly.
May I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Sally, I don't know if you have these off the top of your head, but do you know how much of Woodland Park is presently zoned?
Heavy service commercial?
Thank you.
I was going to ask that question too.
And then if you may just maybe elaborate on your thoughts of if we change the zone, it will in fact decrease, will it or will it not decrease the diversity of housing already in Woodland Park? Because if we have very little to begin with and we further reduce it, and I get that there hasn't been demand, but I think on a national level, we've gone through the financial crisis, the economy has been very bad. So I don't know, I guess it's conjecture to say that the reason that no one's come to buy these lots, one could say that it's the overall national economy instead of a very narrow segment, well, not narrow, but a limited amount in time where there hasn't been demand for that particular property, if you would.
Yeah. The manufacturing industries, as you know, have gone away pretty much in our economy. So, but what we do have still available is Sturman Industries, and they have over 500,000 square feet of entitlement for this type of industrial research, development and research. So there's still plenty of opportunity within Woodland Park if there were a research and development or a manufacturing facility. But then, too, we would have to look at water usage and things like that. So
in addition, though, to Sturman, where else in the city do we have heavy service?
Down on Highway 24, there's a small parcel that is actually used right now by Chris Piles and the UPass Sand and Gravel. Mm-hmm. And then just south of here, next to O'Keefe Ceramics, there's a parcel on the highway, and then these parcels that would remain.
Okay, thanks.
So there's a few options.
Good.
So I guess what you want is either keep it existing as it is or change it to residential,
Well,
Single family.
single family residential.
yeah, well, even multifamily. I understand the council's wisdom in saying, look, we don't know what development requests are going to occur.
Your
we have to wait.
objection is to 20 units per acre.
Yeah, exactly. And
So if you had a figure, what would you say?
I'm sorry, can you
If
repeat
you
that?
had a figure, what would you say per acre? When you're talking about, Bob mentioned something about, 1,800 square foot homes. I can't imagine an 1,800 square foot home fitting on anything less than a quarter of an acre. I mean, probably a third of an acre. So you could probably get 2 or 3 homes in there.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, I think the community that Mr. Brooks Smith lives in is very nice. The units are close together, but they're beautiful, and that would certainly provide, higher density housing.
Four per acre.
I would guess. I mean, Brooke, do you have that number?
3.6.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
what I figured, yeah, about
3.6, just for the record.
They're a
So
lot larger than 1,800 square foot, too.
yeah, and I guess my concern is that, and I get it, we're not talking about an actual development, and some of these buffers can be put in a later time, but this is the first step in going down that road, and so.
So if we change it to 10 units per acre, would that satisfy you?
I appreciate the questions. I don't have an exact number in mind, but when I drive by that area every day, literally twice a day. It's wooded. It's beautiful. It's a nice buffer for the entire good of the community. And I get it. I don't own that land. I don't have the right to really say exactly what will go in there. I totally understand that. Selfishly, I don't want to see my only residence be diminished in property value. But for the good of the community, I think we have to ask ourselves, is that development with urban, multifamily, is it in harmony with the golf course properties? Is it in harmony with Tamarack? Is it in harmony with the 4 units per acre roughly that Mr. Brooks Smith lives in? I personally believe, for whatever it's worth, that it is not in harmony with that part of town.
Thanks.
And I get it, everybody has different opinions, and that's what makes America great, but that's, for what it's worth, that's mine. So,
Thanks very
Thank
much. Appreciate it. And hopefully you'll have faith in council and the rest of us that if this gets changed, that when the time comes and the development comes up, that we might see you again and we can have your input at that time, but we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Any other public comment? If not, then public comment is closed. And council, do we have any final questions?
No, I only wanted to comment on the tap issue. When we converted single-family taps to multifamily for the Trail Ridge project, how many multifamily taps were left in the bank?
Right now, we have 75 left in the bank, but we can add to that bank at any time. We simply remove taps from the single-family bank to the multifamily.
Yeah, and that's the point I want to make. As we move forward and we look at potential multifamily housing projects, which we have identified a need for, it's a trade-off.
And you guys do approve those when they come to you, multifamily projects.
Thanks.
Anybody else? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
All right, well, how do we word this motion? We going to combine 2 things in one here, or we just have to approve
I think
1218?
we have to do 2, I believe. Is that right?
Correct. On page 9.
9E first.
Well, before we, I had one more comment on condition number 2, the 25-foot landscaping buffer. If we were to delete that as a condition and consider it at a later date, as the development projects came forward, and I hope they come forward immediately, would that, what would staff's recommendation be for that?
Well, it would eliminate the ability for staff to be able to impose this, basically. And this would be a permitted use, so you would not be reviewing the development plan.
Correct.
You'd be reviewing the TAP allocations, but not the development plan. So without this, it would, in effect, eliminate the staff's ability to enforce it.
Well, my argument then would be that we need to add the second buffer for lot, Mr. Brook, is it 5 and 6?
3 and 5.
3 and 5 at this time, so we have that in place because we won't review it again. So if I were to make a motion, I would make a motion with an additional condition to add that same buffer requirement for lots 3 and 5. So,
Comment on that, though? What if they are at the same density, though, as the houses across the street? If they're 3 to an acre or something like that.
that's kind of like when the horse gets out of the barn, can't close. It's too late to close the door.
Well, we could say that it would buffer would be in place if the density was more than 4 per acre or something like that.
If you want to make that motion, but my motion is simply to have the same buffer for those 2 lots as we do for the Highway 67 frontage.
If I might add, it would probably likely end up being a fence because there are overhead power lines in there as well as underground utilities. So you would not want to put landscaping in there because it would grow into the power lines and also be a problem for the underground. So a fence is more likely on that western side of those lots, simply because of its utility uses at this point in time.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that with the amendments as stated and the conditions that were in the original proposal.
Lawrence, do you have comment on that condition?
My only comment would be, I'm not sure that I understand why one residential use needs to be shielded from another residential use. It seems to me that if we go down this road, then the builder who comes after the residents, I can't remember the name of the townhomes where the gentleman lives, but why didn't they buffer their townhomes from potential future development? Why should it be incumbent upon me? The highway, I understand. I think that landscape buffers are appropriate in any development anyway. But it seems to me that since we're talking apples to apples with residences, the zone change that I'm requesting is 2 to 9 or 2 to 8 residences to the acre. And again, since we're not presenting a development plan, we don't know what's going to come in. It may be 8 units to the acre. It may just be 2. And if it's 2, then the density is less than development right across the street. Yet he's still asking to impose a condition on to my property. So my request would be to leave the buffer as is along the highway and to handle lots 3 and 5 at the time of the development review. And we all know that this city is very good about making sure that developments are tastefully done. All you have to do is look at the Tractor Supply and the Walmart. They're beautiful buildings. So it can be done. Nice development can be done.
And that was my concern is if it's the same density, same residents, on the side, why are we putting buffers between residential areas? It's like you're treating one as a leper and the other not.
Yes. And the highest densities that we're requesting are along the highway. So we'd like that.
You've already moved that over there.
We've moved it over there for that reason. Because the highway provides a buffer in of itself, granted not a visual buffer necessarily, but certainly space between the reserve at Tamarack and our higher densities. And regarding Mr. Tanis's comment, one of the criticisms I've had of the zoning in the city here is the low end is 2 to 8 units to acre, and then it jumps from 9 to 20. And it might be next time the city reviews the zoning ordinances, it might be time to have an intermediate that's 9 to 13. The reason that I am requesting the higher densities and the multifamily urban classification is simply because if a developer comes along who does want to try to do workforce housing, and we had this discussion in the Planning Commission, this is not derelict housing that we're envisioning. This is housing for school teachers, for police officers. That is the workforce housing. It's providing another rung in the ladder. Those kinds of projects just cannot be done with the kinds of property values up here on a 2 to 8 unit DU basis. You have to be able to get the units up. And in our original vision, we did not discuss multifamily urban for Tamarack Village. That's where the townhome component came in. And the idea behind the townhomes was to use the townhome sales to subsidize the dirt for the workforce housing project, but to keep the densities low. It was the only way it worked. As a standalone, unless another master developer came in and bought the whole thing and did some for sale product with y'all's approval, you can't make that type of a thing work. Again, I'm not proposing a development, but we're throwing the options out there. We have participated in reading the studies for Teller County Housing. We do know what the county needs, and it's not guaranteed that if somebody came in and did workforce housing, they would do 20 units to the acre, but that's a possibility.
Sally,
I have a question for relative to this additional buffer, I guess we'll call it. If we add it in now, and then we find out that the density, whoever comes up with a development is less, can we take it out? If we choose to.
No.
Whereas we can't go the other way around, right?
Right. What you're doing is adding a plat note
Right.
that obligates the staff and the owners to adhere to that plat note.
And that couldn't be taken out?
Could not be taken out without amending the plat.
I can withdraw my motion if the druthers of the council is that they would not vote for this motion with this amendment.
Based on what I just heard, I think we should leave that additional blockage or easement out, buffer zone.
Okay.
Can we get a satellite image right now?
Oh,
To see what it is now, because it.
It's
all woods.
Aerial.
Well, an aerial, I'm sorry, an aerial. I mean, I live right there, and I think there's a pretty big buffer already. I mean, most of the townhomes are looking at the school already, and Mr. Smith might be concerned that you're building further north, and that would encroach into, see, there's a school, there's that lot. I know there's a trail through there on that lot. I don't know anything about the other lot. So you're saying that you're going to add more units going north?
Yeah.
Okay, and so that yes, I could see where how many units for?
Well, it goes clear to the end.
Goes
Going
up to
all the
about-
way to the end. Wow.
There'll be a total of, this is a planned unit development.
But there are power lines right there, correct?
Power line's right on the property line.
Okay, so that's a buffer right there of 50 feet, correct?
Well, you can use an easement, and that's what our concern is.
I can't imagine them building underneath the power lines.
You can't build on it, but you can use it for streets, for parking, for things like that. And that's what concerns us.
But your street is private.
Our street is private.
So nobody's
and the
going to be
strip
able
of
to
land
attach
belongs
to your
private.
street.
Pardon me?
Nobody's going to be able to attach to your street without your permission.
That's correct.
So the only access to that whole area is coming down through Tamarack Parkway and in those easements in between those lots, whatever.
That's the vehicle access.
Yeah.
Well, we get a lot of access right now.
Excuse me, Brooke.
through here.
We're creating public record, so if you would please just come to the microphone, thank you very much.
And that lot density is 2 to 8, and the other ones they're all 2 to 8. Is that
Lot number 5, we're requesting 2 to 8 in density. Lot 6 and 7 is multifamily urban is the request. That would be 9 to 20 units to the acre. Lot 8 is the neighborhood commercial. Lots 1, 2, and 3 retain the existing zoning of heavy service commercial light industrial. And just as a quick aside on that, if the city's worried about running out of heavy service commercial light industrial, in filing number 3, the uses we got for heavy service commercial light industrial was a post office, a gym, and a surveying company, none of which qualify as heavy service commercial light industrial.
Okay, there was some question about whether or not we as council would be able to see what was happening again. Okay. Can you confirm that if we approve this tonight and the developer comes in, we're not going to see the development plans, or are we going to be able to see the development plans?
You will not see the development plans as a review. You will see it, however, because our permitted use requires us to give you a copy that we've received this and a memo, so that as an individual, you're welcome to come in and take a look at it, provide feedback. Actually, anybody is, because we do, with the permitted use, notify the neighbors around, and it is posted property, notifying the public that an application for a permitted use has been received. So you see it not in a formal setting as the council, but informally as a memo that we send out to you.
Okay, but the reason you're sending this out to everybody is just to let them know, or are they allowed to comment on it?
To let them know and allow them to come in and review. They can give feedback. But as long as they meet the standards in the code, then the staff must approve it.
I'm going to withdraw my motion. I'm going to trust the judgment of the planning department when these development plans come forward, and allow them to look at that. And I think one of the primary reasons I'm doing that is now that I understand that there are power lines there in that 50-foot easement, it's unlikely that you could do a landscaping buffer, and perhaps they'll review that and look at it in terms of a fence. But I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, that said, do we have a motion?
Are you withdrawing it or modifying it?
I'm simply withdrawing my motion. I will now do the motion as recommended by the planning staff, and that was to recommend approval of Tamarack Tech Park filing number 5 vacation and replat, including approval of variance for lots 2, 3, and 4, and that would include the 2 conditions that the planning department has made.
We have a second for that?
I'll modify my second to match that.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion before we vote? Cindy?
Thank you. Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Ravetto?
Yeah.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Next, then, we will have a separate motion to approve ordinance number 1218. Be sure, please, if one of you make that motion, to include the findings contained in the staff report, pages 6 through 8, and to incorporate the evidence that was presented by Sally concerning the changes in the neighborhood.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Anybody? Cindy?
Thank you. Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Ravetto?
Yeah.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. You know what, I'm new to this process, and it's pretty impressive to me. Sally, with your presentation, certainly Lawrence and David and everybody, Brooke, everyone that commented, certainly council, but very professional, and I, for one, appreciate it. So thank you all very much. It was a great conversation. Okay, we will move on. Item number 9D, to approve application to grant a transfer of a tavern liquor license. And Cindy?
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce you to one of the new owners of the Ute Inn, Tony Vilgiati. How'd I do?
So close.
Tony, why don't you tell us the right way and give us your address?
Sure, Anthony Vilgiati, and it's 43 Shallow Creek, which is off of Edlow out towards Catamount. So, my wife and I, sorry?
Let me tell them just a little bit about what we're doing tonight, because we do have some new council members. This is a process whereby we follow the state's law for the transfer of ownership of a liquor license from one owner to the other. and that's what we're doing here. We accepted the application, documented a lease for a period of longer than 12 months, which is required by the state law, made sure that they had the correct sales tax and federal employee ID numbers, and that they have no other interest in any other liquor license, and that the members of the LLC are Tony and his wife. The factual findings are, we got the application on the 4th of August. Closing on the business occurred on July 7th, and all applicable fees were paid at that time. During a transfer of ownership process, the state allows a temporary liquor license to be issued to the new owner as long as the existing holder of the license concurs. That is what happened in this case. The temporary permit was issued on the 4th when we accepted the application. Fingerprint investigations are in the process. We expect no negative history, and it's our recommendation that we approve this, that you approve this, following public hearing. I'd like Tony to tell you about his history here and his plans for his new business.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you making time and considering this for us. My wife and I have lived here since 2004. I own another high-tech business. We make batteries, battery backups for cell phones and iPads and stuff like that, which is also a paying city tax and stuff like that here in Woodland Park. We decided to buy the ute in after Mike Mueller decided he was ready to sell. A couple friends encouraged us to take a look at it. My wife and I never were interested in owning a bar, to be honest. We were interested in owning a restaurant that happens to have a bar. And for those of you who have visited in the last 8 weeks since we've taken over, I think you've seen that that's kind of the direction it's heading. We've moved to a fresh, local, and friendly kind of menu and our idea and our concept behind it. We've moved from Mike had 11 employees. We currently employ 21 people. So kind of our vision is to create more of a community hub, something a little less. We love the history of the Ute. We understand its place in the community, but we also think that it could be more than it currently is, and that's what we've been making our investment towards doing. So we invite you all to come down and check it out, especially our burgers. Never frozen, handmade.
What kind of food? What's this?
Best in the world.
Is it just
Mostly
American?
burger steaks and fish fry kind of stuff. We're not doing a whole lot of exotic things. You won't see any Indian food or anything like that.
Just thought because you had an Italian last name, maybe might make an Italian restaurant.
I wouldn't do that to Julie.
Oh, okay.
Tony, best in the world might make a restaurant owner upset here in town.
I'm hoping.
Well, good luck to you. Anybody that's in our crazy business should be commended, and wish you the best of luck. Obviously, we've not met before, but
Actually, we did one time. You sponsored my son's Little League team. And we were talking about the restaurant business. This had to be 7 or 8 years ago. And I think you told me, you asked me, I think it was a joke, how to make a small fortune in the restaurant business. You said start with a big one. So we're hoping.
The whole business is a joke. So
that's rough. Yeah.
Good luck.
It's rough.
Good luck to you. But if if I can ever be of assistance, certainly let me know.
I appreciate that.
But we look forward to that.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
So we will. Any other questions before? No. We have public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to step up? No. If that's the case, then public comment is closed. And do we have any other questions, council? If not,
Move to approve the application for transferring the liquor license.
I will second that motion. No further discussion. We will have a vote. Cindy?
Thank you. Matthews?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Ravetto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Good luck, Tony. You bet. Thank you. Okay. I think we can move on. Public hearings are closed. We'll move on to new business, which we have none of today. Number 11, public comment. We have one name on the list. Deb Miller, welcome. You have something for us.
Deb Miller, Woodland Park Chamber. Actually, I'm going to pass this to Kip and get those passed on down to Cindy. It's our official Oktoberfest posters. I don't know where this year has gone, and it seems really strange to be standing here saying that in about 2 weeks we'll be doing our 17th annual Oktoberfest. We have invited each of you to attend. We've put 2 free entry tickets to attend. And I was going through our setup photos of last year, and Mayor Levy, it will be real interesting to see you and Jane Mannon tapping the keg when we're used to having you back in the cooking area with us for Oktoberfest. But we would be honored if you would join us that day at 11 a.m. on Saturday the 20th, and all of you to join with us for the official tapping of the keg. It's become kind of your keg at that point in time. And we're excited. We bring anywhere between 4,000 to 6,000 people to town for this event. We're excited about it. We're sold out on vendors. We need a few more volunteers, but we wanted to take this official time to come and invite you to our Oktoberfest.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Great event. Look forward to a lot of support from everybody. Anything else? We'll move on to reports, and I have a couple of announcements to make. First, everybody heard Mike and Jed refer to this week, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, first home football game. Love to see all of you out there. Also tomorrow, Farmers Market, 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Saturday the 6th is a great event, the citywide garage sale at Woodland Park High School in the parking lot there is from 7 to 2. Also Saturday the 6th, Steve Barta will be performing at the Cultural Center. Steve's a guy I've known for about 30 years, great musician. A lot of you have heard him before. Look for a great turnout. Tickets are $45. It should be a great event. Monday, September 8th, Community Blood Drive at Our Lady of the Woods. I don't know how long they've been doing that, but it seems like forever, from 2 to 7 o'clock on Monday. Thursday, September 11th, bingo at Cheyenne Mountain Golf Course, 6:30 to 9, $20, and they will hold the bingo the second and fourth Thursday of every month. And then lastly, Saturday and Sunday, the 20th and 21st, is the Rocky Mountain Oktoberfest. So Deb and her staff does a terrific job. It's a fun event, and look forward to seeing you all there having fun. Tell your neighbors, let's have the best turnout we've ever had for Oktoberfest. It's a great event. And I know we're going to have great weather, right, Deb?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
One other item happening Saturday, maybe we can get confirmation. Is that the groundbreaking for the senior
It's Friday.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Okay.
Do you know what time?
2:30.
2:30.
Okay, because that's a big significant breaking.
I overlooked that. But
I'll try to get my mom in there.
Thank you very much.
Well, she's already in one. I just got to get her in a better one.
Stop.
Sorry about that.
You might be next, Bob.
2:30, yes. Well, that's probably where I'll end up, yeah. Not too long.
Council, you have anything else?
I was going to bring up one thing, maybe a challenge to the planning department. Comprehensive plan is 2010. We're due for review, 5-6 year review. It may be appropriate, maybe to challenge them to maybe do a review, considering the fact that we just had an assessment by Downtown Colorado Inc. There's a lot of good information in which we can incorporate, I think, into the comprehensive plan. So before that document gets too stale, it may be a good time to maybe look at that from the planning department, and then it'll eventually come to us. So
No, it never comes to us.
No, it never comes to us.
It goes to the planning
Yeah.
commission. We will be presented
Yeah.
the new comprehensive plan by the planning commission.
But I would challenge them to do that.
We're actually looking at updating the action items, so you'll be seeing that in the next couple of months.
I'm just curious about incorporating what the
Yeah.
assessment had in that. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yes. Cindy has some stuff to hand out to
Actually,
each
Joel
council
gave me
member,
some things he wants you to have.
and I have a prepared statement.
Soccer balls?
That would be better, but this is a serious subject.
I'll go to the end, Bill.
I don't know. We'll save it for John. All right, so I'm in light of a recent interest in bringing recreational marijuana to retail outlets at Woodland Park, I'm compelled to provide strong evidence of the documented dangers of recreational use of this drug. But I would like to clarify at this time that I support the use of medical marijuana when appropriate. I have provided all the City Council members with hard copies of the second annual report produced by Rocky Mountain High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, which is also available online for those in the audience and at home. I have small handouts that provide the site and quick facts about current findings, which cover statistics from 2006 to current. I also suggest you look at the website to see the other reports that are provided for questions and answers and most of the debunked myths that have painted the drug as harmless. The report provides comprehensive research findings of the impact on Colorado of legalized marijuana from 2006 to current. The report includes data regarding motor vehicle accidents, youth issues, emergency room admissions, crime statistics, the financial impacts, and the growing black market for marijuana, which advocates assure us would all but disappear. With respect to much anticipated growth of sales tax revenue, CBS News reported this month that the state of Colorado projected revenues of $33 million in the first 6 months of this year. Actual receipts were $12 million, a 64% less anticipated. The news report states that the reduced receipts were largely due to the fact that buying marijuana on the streets, in other words, the black market, eliminates taxes and fees. Finally, a December 2013 report produced by Northwestern University found that those who used marijuana recreational for 3 years had significant memory deficits and blunted motivation. Specifically, this was the first study to target key brain regions deep in the subcortical gray matter of marijuana users. Researchers used structural MRIs, determined that the area of the brain responsible for memory retention and motivation were structurally changed in marijuana users. Because of this overwhelming, infutable evidence of the dangers of recreational marijuana, in particular the adverse impacts to our school-aged children, I am encouraged those on council who share my concerns to join me in stating that we will not support any measures that seek to bring retail marijuana outlets to Woodland Park. I will continue speaking out on this matter and providing educational material to concerned citizens. We simply can't allow this dangerous drug to become legally available in our city. Thank you.
Well, don't we already have an ordinance on that? That's one.
Not
6
for
months
retail,
ago.
not for retail.
I believe it was.
We did.
Okay, yes.
Okay, well, if it comes back, I want you to have the information. Okay?
Let's come back. We have an ordinance already.
Okay, well, if it comes back to council, I want you to have the information. Okay?
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Anybody else comment?
No, it's just that, yeah, we voted 3-2, 8 months ago, not to allow sale of recreational marijuana in this city. And I don't know that anybody is proposing that we come back to that.
I think it was for the production, sale, and distribution.
Right, all that, yeah.
Right, but I'm concerned that it might, and so I'm just presenting you with some facts. So if there is a underswell that starting to push council to go back to look at that ordinance, I want you to have the facts in front of you. Okay?
That's great. I appreciate it. Thank you
Thanks,
very much,
Noel.
Noel. Anybody else? We'll go to D, and I know Kip has got something for us.
Just a quick update. As you guys are aware, the wastewater treatment plant and the continued increase in organic loading, we've started to move forward with phase 2, and we've just been, our loan application has just been approved for $8.5 million. $2 million of that qualified for a green project at 0%. The other 6.5% is roughly at 3.5% right now.
Good news. Thanks.
That was it.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Kate.
Can any of the rest of us get $2.5 million for no interest?
Here's 303-830.
Thanks very much. Comments on written correspondence, if we have any? If that's the case, we appreciate it. Thank you all, and we will adjourn. Thank you.